We are the Campaign for a Nuclear-Free North Country. We are a civic group committed to nonviolent action. Our mission is to inform the North Country communities about the dangers of nuclear power and the benefits of renewable energy. Why did we decide to launch in Messina? Because Messina is the potential site for the nuclear reactors Governor Hochul wants to build in upstate New York. Messina needs economic development. Messina needs jobs. We agree. Messina has a history of big industrial projects. Messina is on the river, and reactors need humongous amounts of water. If a reactor is to be built in St. Lawrence County, this is the obvious place. Why are the rest of us here? Why are we all here? Because a nuclear reactor in Messina will affect the entire region. Our risk of cancer will increase. Our electricity prices will go up. And God forbid if there is an earthquake in Messina. Why am I here? I worked with an anti-nuclear organization for 8 years, back in the 70s and 80s. We worked hard, and we won. In the last 50 years in the U.S., only 3 reactors have been completed, and over 100 reactors have been canceled. Massive accidents, major accidents, massive cost overruns and building delays, the danger of nuclear weapons proliferation, and public opposition all added to a failed technology. China syndrome was mentioned. That actually influenced a lot of people moving. Nuclear power is too expensive, it's too toxic, it's too dangerous, and it's too slow to solve the affordability and climate crisis. The reasons why nuclear failed the first time are all still here. And now we have cheaper, safer, more reliable, community-friendly alternative in renewables. If the Chinese can put online 1 to 3 gigawatts of power every day, why in the world do we want to take 15 years and billions of dollars to put 1 gigawatt in Messina? Governor Hochul has said that reactors will be built only in communities that are receptive and welcoming to nuclear power. When we all know the truth about nuclear power, we will say together, nuclear power, no thanks. Not here, not anywhere. Thank you.
Yeah!
Sego everyone. Abraham Francis from Mohawks United in Safety and Health was supposed to be here today, but he had a prior engagement, so I'm here reading from a speech that we both put together. So, Sego Sego Guego, the Gona Lugge Yungyak Swak Skalewage, Akwazasna de Gidalo. My Gunyagaha name is Dagona Lugge. My English name is Ronnie, and I am Bear Clan from Akwesasne. So, as Haudenosaunee, we are born with responsibilities to our ancestors and future generations. Nuclear is a short-term solution with long-term problems. Our people have been resisting reckless development for generations. And in this tradition, we stand united and firm when we say this issue needs to stop with us. Akwesasne is a place of resistance and resilience. We've lived through the impacts of imposed industry within our territory and at the edge of imposed colonial borders of jurisdiction that has left an opening for disrespect of our community and our generations. This history has taught us the difficult lessons of loss, and a long journey of healing. We are calling home everything that was stolen from us through various efforts of assimilation, erasure, and dispossession. We will fight and carry our responsibilities to future generations and all of creation. I stand confidently in my resistance to nuclear energy. It is not an option to address climate change, and it comes with an insatiable demand for energy. The data center to nuclear pipeline must be stopped. Data center consumption only promotes increased environmental harm and further reinforces the demand for more energy. The amount of money funneled into greenwashing nuclear as an alternative option could be spent on recreating recyclable, sustainable materials for real alternative energy. 70% of all uranium deposits are found near or on indigenous lands, and many nations are paying the price that uranium is worth in more ways than one. How are we supposed to support nuclear when the legacy impacts are felt across all of Turtle Island? The Seneca Nation of Indians in Western New York have dealt with this reality that continues to impact the Cattaraugus Creek due to the West Valley Demonstration Project. My Pueblo and Diné relatives in the Southwest face continuous environmental violence through forced exposure to radioactive waste in their waters, soils, and airs. Further, storage of this nuclear is unclear and dangerous. Nuclear fuel can be directed towards potential deep geological repositories that are affecting First Nations throughout Canada who are actively resisting. Let's bring our voices together to call for the divestment of false climate solutions. Let's remember that we are looking at an issue that traverses hundreds of thousands of years. This is already an intergenerational issue without a solution in sight. We need to seek out solutions for the long-term caretaking of nuclear and ensure that the appropriate institutions are held accountable. Us and many others will keep fighting for a nuclear-free future. Now.
Thanks, Robin. Would anybody else like to say a few words?
Hi, Sego. My name is Suzanne Hatnode. I've been a resident of Messina, New York for 2 years. I grew up in Fort Covington, not too far away. With collective efforts from MUSH and then a lot of locals from Messina, we've been fighting against the data center. I bring this up when talking about nuclear because these two are going hand in hand. What we're watching right now is a complete discredit and disregard for our community's voices by the town board here in Messina. Right now, we're witnessing them continuously try to change any efforts that we can make to keep public comment and keep a voice for our community. With this last meeting that was present, we watched them change the agenda the day of in order to prevent activists from being able to speak out. And even if you don't want to go as far as to say that you're an activist and you just care about your community members should be free to speak at these meetings. They shouldn't be disregarded. We see Samuel Carbone, Facebook comment warrior, showing up with all of these informations about the data centers, about nuclear, saying why he thinks that this shouldn't be for public comment, but not really saying that, saying why he thinks that this should be left up to the board. I say, why not put it to a referendum? Both of these options should be up to a referendum. We voted, I think it was 2024, we voted on whether or not the library should have more community funding. And I think that if an issue that small, not to water that down, but an issue that small is something that the entire community gets to vote on, why should an issue this big be something that is completely up to 5 men that are sitting very cushy, wealthy lives while the rest of us are suffering from the actual impacts that these decisions are costing them? These people won't be living long enough to see the repercussion, but me and my daughter will have to see this for generations. I spoke up at the last meeting and I referenced how my mom was 40 years old when she was diagnosed with her first autoimmune disease. I was born with several. So what does that mean for my daughter? What does that mean for future generations? To even go further on it, to reintroduce myself not just as a community member, but I am the president of the Seaway Parkinson's Coalition. The amount of people that are in that coalition that are former retirees from Reynolds and Alcoa, likely a majority of their disorders that they are living with, neurological and alike, are directly caused from the pollution that happened in the seaway at that time. Are we really wanting to do that to our community again? Especially when we fought so hard to prevent that from happening ever again. Now they're just going to casually change the law without your consent so that they can make room for somebody to move in here, buy up all of the property, spend billions of dollars in infrastructure, billions of dollars, but then tell us that they can't afford to pay taxes. So now they're applying for a pilot program make sense to anybody here. Like I really implore everybody in the community to ask, when people come in here and they seek out this area, what are their intentions? And why, if not, we have the entire board of Messina currently in St. Lawrence County are talking about how, well, if not them, then who, right? But what they're doing, like a very sit and wait approach, where they sit with their hand open, and then the first offer that they get are the people that they want to have in here. So why are we not asking our politicians to do outreach programs? We have an abundance of really great programs in New York State. We have the Neurological Institute portion of Columbia University in New York City. We have the Rochester University of Medicine. They work with the Parkinson's Foundation. They have a research institute where they do studies of neurological conditions and autoimmune disorders that are caused by pollution in the area. So why would we not do some kind of outreach program with one of those colleges, one of those universities? Bring in an education system in that plant instead. Bring in researchers in that plant instead. And then we could create a tuition system for our students here that want to pursue furthering ed, especially for low-income families around here. But instead we want to have a data center that's just going to buy up and use our water. And now they're going to say that they're not going to use our water. They've already promised that. But what we're witnessing in several data centers currently in California and in Texas is these people came in, they were under a similar agreement with a closed loop cooling system, and they were going to outsource the water. But instead what we're watching now is these same companies are now going through a lawsuit with those local communities so that they can continue to profit off of using the water. So originally they promised not to use local waterways, now they're suing for the rights to. What are the odds that this company is going to do the same? And I would argue that it's probably the same company because we're watching NCCS partner with places like Coinmint. So I hesitate to say that they're not going to follow the same patterns. It's the same exact thing we're watching across the country. I don't know why we would want that here in Messina. And even if you don't want to look at the environmental aspects of it, again, this is not something that we should ever take lightly. This is not something that the public shouldn't have say. And if it was something that, if our voice didn't matter, if we didn't have an impact, they wouldn't fight so hard to make it so that we don't have access to those meetings. They wouldn't fight so hard to keep us out of it if we weren't already making an impact here in Messina with our voices, with what we've been doing. We've already been able to back them away. Yawa to Ronnie and Marina, who have been able to fight them in order to get it to the point where they're talking about a closed loop cooling system. But again, these people can't even describe what spillage companies or how the spillage containment would work. Yet these are the same people that have been working. Again, they get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to know this information. Why do I know more about a closed loop cooling system than the representatives from NCCS who can neither confirm nor deny how that stuff works? Why does Ronnie know more about this than people that are sent to be representatives for their company to convince us to be here? If not for the environmental impacts, at least recognize this for the shady business deal that it sounds like. Otherwise, I don't know. I feel I'm not alone in feeling like my voice has been falling on deaf ears, but I stand here today and I see the people here and I know that that's not true, and I know that they just want us to feel that way. I want a better future for my daughter. I want to see Messina thrive. I want to see us continue to focus on agriculture. I want to see us continue to focus on education. I want to see better healthcare here in Messina. For lack of a better word, and I'm sorry for swearing, I don't give a fuck about AI data centers. We can live without it. We've done it for hundreds of thousands of years prior. We'll be fine without it. I don't know why they're acting like this is something that we desperately need here. And we're doing just fine. I see a really strong community in front of me. I don't know why they would ever convince you that this is something that we need, when it's not. It truly is not. I also want to address another issue. I think that there's several people who are already familiar with it here, where we're witnessing at the golf course, I believe it's Cedar View, where that land has been sold out from under him and they want to put a solar farm. If they're promoting all of these green infrastructure, why are they not including the people? Why do they need to buy up all of our land instead of creating a community-backed program where they have volunteers from the community to take solar, have it built into their homes, and then whatever is excess can go back to the grid? Why do we not fund our community first? We could all have green renewable power here in Messina, here in St. Lawrence County, and these companies could pay for it. But instead they want to buy up all of our land and run us out of our own property and our own home instead of making something that's beneficial to us. None of that power at that solar farm is going to stay here. None of it. It's going to give us like a few jobs. But if we had solar that was built into homes, we would have linemen, we'd have technicians, we'd have so many jobs here in Messina. They could do a partnership with Messina Electric. They're creating all of these ideas, but I fail to see that there's not a single person in that boardroom that couldn't think of a logical plan outside of creating a mass eyesore and a pollutant for the ecosystem in that area. How am I, like a 25-year-old woman, able to come up with a better solution than an entire room full of men that have the supposed education around this, if not for profit? It's just, that is my piece on this subject. Sorry.
Wow!
Thank you, Susie. That was excellent. Wow, good. Ronnie, Susie, I really thank you both for coming and speaking out and giving great talks.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.